So, my wife Laura and I were supposed to go on a vacation together, one of those romantic tropical paradise trips you book to escape the daily grind. Well, let's just say things didn't exactly go as planned. About 2 weeks before our trip, I found out that Laura was cheating on me with her boss, Larry. An old schoolmate of mine, who started working in the mailroom of her office building, reached out to me and spilled the beans. I was devastated and wanted to confront her immediately, but I couldn't decide how to initiate that conversation. I decided to play it cool until I could find the right words and the strength to deal with it. My father urged me to confront her right away, but my desire for her to suffer as I was suffering led me down a darker path. I knew I had to make her suffer, so I devised a plan. I decided to leave her abruptly, and it hit me. Send her on vacation alone and stay home to pack. I worked out all the details and waited patiently. On the day of our vacation, I insisted on carrying both of our carry-on bags, including the one with her money. When it was time to board, I let her go ahead of me, stopped and told her I had to call my mom. I watched as she boarded the plane without me, and the adrenaline rush was unbelievable. I immediately headed back home and started packing. When she landed, she called me frantic and worried. I assured her I'd be on the next flight and encouraged her to chill in the room until I got there. She called again after a few hours, asking how close I was to being on my plane. I told her about a supposed mechanical delay, and by that evening, she was in a panic, stuck in a hotel room, bored and hungry. I told her I'd wire some money to her at the hotel. I suggested to her to enjoy a good meal and take a walk on the beach without me, as it would help her pass the time until I arrived. I kept up this charade until it was night, informing her that they moved me to a different flight, ensuring her I'd be there sometime in the night. She finally went to sleep expecting me to be there when she woke up, but I had no intention of joining her. On the next day, she called me multiple times, and each time I pretended to be on my way or dealing with some sort of delay. I wired her a small amount of money again for food, but nothing more. Meanwhile, I was packing up all my belongings and leaving our house. Laura was tormented, absolutely tormented, wondering why I couldn't make it to our vacation destination. Little did she know that I had no intention of joining her. By midday of day number 2, I had packed everything I intended on taking with me, so I stopped responding to her calls and texts. I just stopped cold, and this really freaked her out. Her parents, sister, and even the police got involved. I didn't answer the door when they came by the house. My parents started calling, and I apologized to Dad for not taking his advice, but I believed that Laura needed to suffer for hurting me so bad. She wasn't in any danger, just stuck in a difficult situation just like me. I called the number the police left with my father, apologized, and gave them a short rundown. The officer laughed a little, but then got back into his professional mode, saying he needed to at least confirm that they had been in contact with me and that I was safe. I packed the car, pulled it out of the garage, and into the driveway when Laura's sister arrived, asking what in the world was going on. She saw all of my stuff in the car and raised an eyebrow. I told her about Laura and Larry, and she guessed she had no idea that was happening. She was angry with me for leaving her sister stranded, but also close enough to see how much this had changed me. She said she would have to tell her sister something, so I asked her to wait and I would let Laura know first. I called Laura and she answered in tears, frantic and losing her mind. I told her to calm down, and when she did, I dropped my well-rehearsed monologue. Hey Laura, I hope you're enjoying your vacation alone. I know about your affair with Larry. I'm filing for divorce and never want to see you again. Then I abruptly hung up. She tried to call back, but I rejected the call and shut off my phone. I looked at her sister, who had tears in her eyes, gave me a hug, said she was sorry, and then left. Then I did the same. I can only imagine the look on Laura's face when I dropped that bomb. I heard she scrambled to get her flight rearranged to come home as soon as possible, only to be greeted by an empty house and an empty life. Now, I know this might be a bit much for some, but I couldn't let her get away with betraying me like that. In a way, I think is justified. I spilled the beans to him, and now Larry is jobless due to the whole mess. Shortly after, Laura lost her job too. Boom, baby, finally the work was done, and I could move on to rebuilding my life. As the dust settled and Maura's life began to crumble around her, I received an unexpected call from a man who had heard about my little stunt with the vacation and reached out to me. We met up for coffee to discuss our mutual heartache and our experiences with betrayal. It was oddly therapeutic to connect with someone who understood exactly what I was going through, and we quickly became close friends. We supported each other through the difficult process of rebuilding our lives after our respective divorces. Our bond grew stronger as we discovered we had a lot in common, not just our unfortunate circumstances. Oh, how the universe works in mysterious ways. Meanwhile, Laura was struggling to pick up the pieces of her shattered life. She lost her job and had to move back in with her parents. I heard through the grapevine that she was having a hard time finding a job and took up a minimum wage job to make ends meet. It's not the life she envisioned when she threw our marriage away for a fling with her boss, that's for sure. As for Larry, he didn't fare much better. After losing his job, he couldn't find another position in his field. His reputation had been tarnished, and no one wanted to hire the guy who slept with his employee and ruined two marriages in the process. He ended up working as a manager at a fast food joint, a far cry from the high-powered career he once had. I'm sure they will both end up with good jobs eventually once their past is far enough behind them. Meanwhile, my newfound friend and I continued to grow closer, and eventually our friendship blossomed into something more. It was surprising considering the circumstances that brought us together, but it felt natural and right. We were both cautious, having been burned before, but it seemed like fate had brought us together for a reason. She was highly empathic, like me, and a natural giver. Imagine that, two givers in a relationship. Who has ever heard of such a thing? LOL. In a strange twist of irony, we decided to take a vacation together, just the two of us. We chose a completely different destination, of course, and made sure to triple check that we both boarded the plane this time. I even teased that I had to use the bathroom before the plane took off and pretended to start getting up. She grasped my hand tightly and wouldn't let me leave my seat, though it was all meant to be funny. It was also highly symbolic. It became clear during our trip that there was more to our relationship than we initially thought, and neither of us wanted to part ways. I also realized that leaving her was not something I desired. That journey marked the moment when we discovered our true love and readiness to embark on a new chapter together. Fast forward to today, Anand and I are happily married, having built a beautiful life, and we appreciate the second chance we were given. Regarding Laura and Larry, I don't have much information about their lives now, and honestly, I don't care. They made their choices, and they must face the consequences. The moral of this story, my friends, is that life can throw unexpected challenges your way, and adapting and moving forward is key. The trials and heartaches may seem overwhelming, but with time, support, and a well-timed revenge, you can find happiness again. Who knows? You might even discover love in the most unexpected places. This story truly came full circle.
I've recently discovered the cruel side of my husband, who devised a punishment for my infidelity that has made me realize the depth of his malevolence. Living with a man who lacks compassion and forgiveness is an eye-opening experience. While I acknowledge my unfaithful behavior, the intense hatred he harbors toward me is shocking. My husband, aged 43, and I, aged 33, have been married for a decade. Our union wasn't initially in my plans at 23, but life took its own course. I encountered my husband, a technician, at the age of 20 when he came to repair something on our college campus. Despite my initial lack of interest, he confessed his feelings, and I rejected him, not finding him attractive. I kept this amusing incident to myself, sharing a lighter version with my mother. Coming from a family of 5, including a stepsister and an older brother, we faced financial struggles. My father, despite our challenges, had another child outside his marriage, making life more difficult. College became my escape from the heated arguments at home, and it was there I met my husband. Though I had dated before, I maintained self-respect. Now, in my marriage, I grapple with the consequences of my unfaithfulness and the ruthless punishment my husband has devised, revealing a dark side I never knew existed. He didn't approach me again, and we lost contact because he stopped coming to our college for repairs. Honestly, I didn't even notice his absence and continued with my life. It wasn't until almost 6 months later that I saw him again during my second year of college. I accompanied my brother to pick up some tools for the bike he had purchased. I didn't feel the need to inquire about how he acquired the bike because I assumed he had enough money for it. After all, he was supporting me through college, so I thought he could afford such things. It was on that day at the tool shop that I met my future husband, who was also there to buy tools. Strangely, my brother greeted him like they were old friends, even though they had never met. It's one of those moments when men feel compelled to acknowledge a fellow shopper just because they happen to be looking for the same set of tools. To be honest, I felt embarrassed to see him there, considering how I had turned him down before. However, he smiled at me and asked how I was. I inquired why he had stopped coming to our college, and he explained that he had become busy and was in the process of starting his own mechanic shop. That's why he was at the store to purchase tools. We engaged in conversation for a while before I left with my brother. Over time, I ran into him on several occasions, and we eventually exchanged phone numbers. Our relationship began as a friendship, but he was clear about his desire for something more. However, I wasn't ready for a romantic involvement with him at that time. Then, I received a shock when my brother informed me that he could no longer financially support my college education. That day, I cried myself to sleep. My brother claimed he had run out of money, but the truth was that he had been embezzling funds from his employer. Yes, my brother had been stealing from his boss, who only became suspicious when my brother purchased the bike. It raised suspicions because the boss knew the exact amount my brother earned as a salary, and it didn't align with his newfound possessions. As a result, my family found itself in debt and struggling to make ends meet during this challenging period. I didn't confide in my husband about my family's financial woes because I was too ashamed. At the time, we were still just friends. However, my husband asked me out a few weeks later. I won't deny the truth. I entered into a relationship with him because I was financially strained. He had the means to support himself and even buy gifts for me. I don't feel ashamed to admit this because, in that situation, I felt I had no other choice. My family was drowning in debt, and I was on the brink of quitting college. Desperation for survival led me to cling to my only lifeline. Eventually, I confided in him about my college tuition, and he requested some time. Several weeks later, he provided the money I needed for my college fees. I felt immense gratitude and, in addition, took up a part-time job at a restaurant to earn some income. I tied the knot with my husband while I was still a college student. He proposed a year later, and I accepted. He had been my pillar of support, and after everything he had done for me, I couldn't say no. My parents also encouraged me to marry him and not miss this opportunity. I anticipate some people may wonder why I didn't just marry a wealthy millionaire when I was financially strained. Well, this is real life, not a Hollywood movie. Finding and marrying a rich man in the real world isn't that simple. It's not like you can just stumble upon a wealthy man who instantly falls in love with you and marries you. I opted for the most secure choice, which was my husband. He expressed his commitment and willingness to support me in both good and challenging times. I was ready to settle down and had no reservations about it. Realizing I didn't possess the looks of a celebrity, I didn't expect a fairy tale romance. After our marriage, I completed my college education, but my husband wasn't the overly romantic type. Finding a job proved challenging, leading me back to my previous restaurant work. Our marriage lacked intense romantic feelings, but we cared for and supported each other. I became a stay-at-home mom after giving birth to our daughter. Despite reaching an age where she could attend nursery, I chose not to resume working due to personal preferences. Despite my contentment, I developed a crush on a colleague. Despite being married, I agreed to go out with him, keeping our relationship a secret. The affair continued with someone else, and my husband seemed oblivious. I saved my earnings for several years, following traditional roles and aiming to afford things once out of reach. My husband eventually discovered my infidelity, and his reaction was malicious. He withdrew over $10,000 from my savings, wiping out 4 years of hard work. Feeling betrayed, I confronted him, and he revealed that he found out about my affair through a friend. The trauma from this experience has left me feeling helpless and frustrated. For a long time, I kept a secret, hiding the truth to execute my plan for revenge. My husband accused me of exploiting him to support my family and myself while I was being unfaithful and saving money. If you're curious about how he discovered the money I saved, let me clarify. He deduced that I must have been saving because I wasn't contributing to the household income. Aware of my job's earnings, my husband sought revenge, leaving the house after laughing in my face, and he hasn't returned since. Despite my unfaithfulness, his actions were heartless as he stole the money I had saved for 4 years as retribution for my infidelity. I'm overwhelmed with anger and worry about the state of my marriage. Update. It's challenging to believe that 2 months have passed since I posted this. The comments were quite candid. Some labeled me as the ultimate cheating opportunist, while others expressed their disgust. I find relief in knowing I'm not alone, understanding that nobody's perfect, and I'm far from it. While I made a mistake by cheating, I don't regret choosing the safest option and marrying the man I believed could provide for me. It was a matter of survival. However, my marriage couldn't endure because my husband stole from me, and I cheated on him. We were beyond repair, and I was left with only $200 to survive. 3 weeks later, my husband served me with divorce papers, giving me a month to vacate the apartment. My parents were angry with me, refusing to take me in as I had ruined the marriage that provided money. I had to plead with a colleague to let me stay at her place until I received my monthly salary. My child spent weekends with me, but the rest of the week with her father because I couldn't afford to provide for both of us. Now, I'm no longer with my partner, going through a divorce, and facing the challenges of being a financially struggling woman. Despite the hardships, I'm working on getting my life back together. It's a process, but I believe I'll get there. Perhaps parting ways with my husband is necessary to find my own path in life without taking shortcuts. Thanks to everyone who took the time to read my story and share their thoughts.